Hi students, good morning. So in the last class, we started coordination compound chapter. So up to geometrical isomerism we completed. So the remaining isomerism will be optical isomerism. Optical isomerism. So we completed structural and geometrical. Now optical isomerism. So first of all, what are optical isomers? Optical isomers are non-superimposable. Non-superimposable mirror images. Non-superimposable mirror images are called optical isomers. What is non-superimposable mirror image means? In simple example, see this. I'm writing letter A. If we placed in mirror, its mirror image also should be like this. If this we are placed above on this, so both will be matched. So match means that is superimposable, and does not match means non-superimposable. Another example, see the letter B. If we are placed in mirror like this, so its image should be like this. So if this we are placed on this above the molecule, so then it is non-superimposable. That means not match. So those molecules which are non-superimposable and also mirror image, such molecules are called optical isomers. Optical isomers are non-superimposable mirror images. Just for example, I given this. Now, in coordination compounds, optical isomerism is shown by tetrahedral complexes having all different ligands. Tetrahedral complexes having all different ligands. So when the complex is tetrahedral and all ligands are different, then it will show optical isomerism. For example, like NiCl4. It has 4 chlorine atom, Cl, Cl, Cl. Here see this, all ligands are same. Such molecules does not exhibit optical isomerism. If it has different ligands, like one is chlorine, another one is bromine, another one is iodine, suppose another one is any other group like chlorine. Now here all 4 ligands are different. When all 4 ligands are different, its mirror image will be, when we are placed in mirror, its image should be like this. Here nickel atom, here chlorine, and here fluorine will be observed here, iodine will be observed here, and bromine will be observed here. So both are mirror image molecules. So if this molecule is non-superimposable on this, such means it will exhibit optical isomerism. When all 4 ligands are different, then tetrahedral complexes will exhibit optical isomerism. Also remember, square planar complexes does not exhibit or does not show optical isomerism. This is important, remember. So tetrahedral having 4 different ligands will show optical isomerism, but square planar complexes never show optical isomerism. So octahedral complexes having bidentate ligands can show optical isomerism. So square planar does not show optical isomerism, whereas octahedral complexes will show optical isomerism. But in octahedral, bidentate ligands are common. So octahedral having bidentate ligands, mostly they will show optical isomerism. For example, a complex I'm taking, CO, En thrice 3 plus. CO, En thrice 3 plus. Now see this, when writing this structure, the central atom will be CO. Structure is octahedral, like this. Axial axis should be like this. So En is a bidentate ligand. What is bidentate ligand means? So one En can form 2 bonds. This side also bond, this side also bond. The second En I am placing here, this side, and this side is bond forming. The third En I am placing here. It can form bond like this, or it can form bond like this. So that means one En can form 2 bonds. So 3 En is forming. Total coordination number will be 6. If this we are placed in mirror, then what is its image? Its image should be like this. Central atom will be CO. For corner bonds, 2 axial bonds. So this En will be image here. It will form 2 bonds like this. And here En, it will form 2 bonds like this. Here En is image, will form 2 bonds like this. Observe these 2 molecules. These 2 molecules are mirror images and also non-superimposable. Such non-superimposable mirror image molecules are called optical isomers. So that's why in octahedral, bidentate ligand complex mostly commonly exhibit optical isomerism. So optical isomers means non-superimposable mirror images. Another example I'm writing. CO En twice Cl2 plus. So in this we can write isomerism like this. Central atom will be CO, octahedral complex, 2 axial bonds. Suppose I am writing one En here. It will form 2 bonds like this. Another En here. It will form 2 bonds like this. Above is chlorine and below is also chlorine. Another possibility I am writing CO central atom, axial bonds. This time En I am writing here, it is forming 2 bonds. En is forming two bonds. Here, this side, two chlorine atoms I arranged. Observe the above molecule and below molecule. The above molecule is a trans isomer. Why? Because it is a trans isomer. Here, the both chlorines are opposite. That's why it is a trans isomer. Here, the both chlorines are same side. That means it is a cis isomer. So, COEN twice Cl2 molecule can also exhibit geometrical isomerism. That is cis and trans. Now, if this we are placed in mirror, both molecules we are placing in mirror like this. So the first molecule should be visible like this, central atom CO, axial bonds. Now, so this En will be image here, and this En image will be visible here, and the above is chlorine atom, below is also chlorine atom. Observe the two molecules, mirror molecules. This molecule, so both are similar molecule. If this molecule we are placed on the above of this molecule, so they are superimposable. Superimposable means both are same molecule. So these are not optical isomers. That means trans molecules does not show optical isomerism. Whereas cis molecule, observe this, central atom CO, axial bonds. So one En is image here. Next En image will be here, and this side two chlorine atom. So it is the mirror image of this molecule. Now observe these two molecules. So both are mirror images, but this molecule, when you are placed on the above of this molecule, so superimposability is not possible. That means these two are non-superimposable, and these two are called optical isomers. So cis molecule will exhibit optical isomerism, whereas trans molecule does not exhibit optical isomerism. So the structures we have to practice. Bidentate ligand will always form two bonds. So this is about isomerism. And also remember, in optical isomer, one molecule is denoted with D form. Its mirror image molecule is denoted with L form. So denoted with L form. So D means dextro, L means levo molecule. Optical isomers are D and L isomers. So that is about optical isomerism. So isomerism completed. So next we'll start some important theories. Coordinate theories. So there are number of theories proposed by number of scientists. The first coordination theory is given by Werner. Werner's coordination theory. So Alfred Werner is the first scientist who prepared the coordination compound. So that's why he also got the Nobel Prize for the synthesizing of coordination compound. He is also called father of coordination chemistry. Now what Werner says that, according to Werner, in every coordination compound, that means in every complex, there is a two types of valencies. So according to him, complexes have two types of valencies. Complexes have two types of valencies. That is primary valency another one is secondary valency. So Werner says that a complex compound always have two types of valencies. So one is the primary valency, second one is the secondary valency. What is the primary valency? A primary valency is ionizable, whereas the secondary valency is non-ionizable. Ionizable means, so primary valency can be dissociated to ions, whereas secondary valency does not dissociate. So that means non-ionizable. Primary valency is, so primary valency is represented with dotted bond like this. So this is the representation of primary bond, whereas secondary valency denoted with arrow mark line. So this is the secondary valency representation. This is the primary valency representation. Now this primary valency nowadays we are calling as nothing but counter ions. So counter ions are nothing but primary valency. So in complexes, counter ions are always attached by primary valency, whereas secondary valency always attached by ligands. Ligands attached by secondary valency, counter ions attached by primary valency. Now these counter ions are ionizable, ligands are non-ionizable. So this primary valency does not exhibit geometry. Primary valency does not exhibit geometry. That means, so geometry has no relation with this primary valency bonds, whereas secondary valency exhibit geometry. So these are the points of differentiation between primary valency and secondary valency. Werner says that in any complexes, there are two types of valencies, primary and secondary. Primary valency is ionizable. They are always represented with dotted bond. So they are attached by counter ions. That means counter ions always attached by a dotted bond, and these counter ions are ionizable. And geometry is does not related with this counter ions. Counter ions does not exhibit any geometry. Whereas secondary valency, it is a non-ionizable, represented with arrow mark. So these are attached by ligands and exhibit geometry. So these points are explained by Werner. So, but there are some number of drawbacks in Werner's theory. What are the drawbacks are? Werner does not explain magnetic nature of the complex, does not explain color of the complex, does not explain even geometry, hybridization. So nothing explained. Only he explained any complex has two types of valences. Those are primary and secondary. So remaining all are the drawbacks of Werner. So what are the remaining drawbacks? So when we are writing flaws, so flaws means drawbacks. So does not explain, this theory does not explain what property is not explained? Magnetic property, color, also geometry, and also stability, etc. So all these properties does not explained by Werner. So these are the drawbacks or flaws of Werner's theory. So after the Werner theory, another important theory is came. So that is the valence bond theory, VBT theory. What this theory says that according to this theory, a coordinate bond is always formed by overlapping of, according to this theory, a complex is always formed by overlapping overlapping of empty orbitals. Overlapping of empty orbitals of central atom and filled orbitals of ligands. So this is the statement of valence bond theory. According to this theory, a complex is always formed by overlapping of empty orbitals of central atom. That means central atom's empty orbitals involved in bonding, whereas ligands orbitals are filled orbitals. So ligand have filled orbital, central atom has empty orbital. If these two filled and empty orbitals are on overlapping, we get coordination compound. So that is given by valence bond theory. For example, first on example I am explaining NiCl4 2 minus. So we have to identify geometry of this complex or magnetic nature, hybridization, all we can explain by using valence bond theory. So how to write its hybridization? First of all, here the central atom is nickel. In the first step, we'll calculate oxidation number. So take nickel as a X atom plus there are 4 chlorine. 4 into chlorine charge will be -1 equal to complex charge is -2. So from that X will get +2. X means what? Central atom. So that means in this complex, central atom nickel exhibit +2 charge. So nickel atomic number is 28. After calculating oxidation number, we have to write its electronic configuration. The electronic configuration of nickel will be 3d8 4s2. So configuration of nickel will be 3d8 4s2. But here what is the charge of nickel? +2. So +2 means there is a loss of 2 electrons. So electrons always first remove from s orbital. So 4s2 will become 4s0. After that 4p0 is also there. 4d0 also we can write. Because why I am writing 4p0 4d0? Valence bond theory says that central atoms empty orbitals involved in bonding. So we require empty orbitals. So in fourth shell, s orbitals also possible, p orbitals, d orbitals, all possible orbitals I am writing here. So this is the Ni2 plus configuration 3d8 4s0 4p0 4d0. Now 3d8 means we know that d orbitals are 5 orbitals. 1 2 3 4 and 5. S orbital is single orbital, whereas p orbitals are 3 orbitals. D orbitals are again 5 orbitals. 1 2 3 4 5 orbitals. Now here 3d8. 8 means 8 electrons are there. Just we are filling electrons. The first electron will be filled here. Second electron filled here. Third electron. Fourth electron. Fifth electron. The sixth electron will be pair here. Seventh will be pair. Eighth also will be pair. So this is the electronic configuration of Ni2 plus. Now observe this. Valence bond theory says that only empty orbitals of central atom involved in the bonding. So these are not empty orbitals. So these are empty orbitals. So we required 4 bonds in NiCl4. How many bonds are required? That number of empty orbitals involved in hybridization. So this is first orbital. So this is the second orbital, third orbital, fourth orbital. All these 4 orbitals involved in the bonding. So this is a s orbital. And remaining these 3 are which orbitals? P orbitals. That means 1s and 3 p orbitals participate in hybridization. That's why hybridization of this complex will be sp3. sp3 means it is a tetrahedral complex. So NiCl4 2 minus is a tetrahedral complex. Also observed in this configuration, 3 orbitals are paired, but remaining 2 are unpaired. So unpaired means the complex is paramagnetic in nature. So paramagnetism is due to unpaired electron. So this is example of NiCl4 2-. Another example we'll see. So the next example I'm taking NiCN4 2-. In the same process, first we'll calculate oxidation number X plus 4 into Cn charge will be -1 equal to -2. So from that X we will get +2. So X means what? Central atom nickel. So nickel charge is here +2. Atomic number 28. So what the configuration will become? 3d8 4s0 4p0 4d0. Now how many d orbitals are possible? 5 d orbitals. 1 2 3 4 5. How many s orbitals are possible? Only one s orbital. Number of p orbitals are 3. Again d orbitals are 5. So this is electronic configuration. Now 3d8 means first electron will be filled here, second electron filled here, third electron, fourth electron, fifth electron, sixth will be paired here, seventh will be paired here, eighth will be paired here. Now here what we observe, only these are empty orbitals. These has to be participate in bonding. But here what will be takes place? These two are unpaired electrons. Since these two are unpaired electrons, one of these electrons will be paired into this orbital and it will become empty. So this becoming empty. So when this electron is pairing on this orbital is becoming empty orbital. This becoming empty orbital. So one of the paired electron will be one of the unpaired electron will be paired here. This will become empty orbital. Now these empty orbitals will participate in the bonding. How many bonds required? 4 bonds. So that's why. So these empty orbitals will participate in the bonding. This empty orbital, this empty orbital, and these empty orbitals. So total 4 orbitals. But observe this. This is which orbital? D. So this is a d orbital plus this is a s orbital and these two are p orbitals. So 1d, 1s and 2p. The hybridization will be dsp2 hybridization and geometry is called square planar. dsp2 hybridization square planar. The above complex is tetrahedral. The second complex is pair planar. Here central atom both are nickel. Oxidation state also +2. But still in the above complex, electrons are not paired. But in this complex, electrons are paired. So valence bond theory says that in some complexes, electrons are paired. In some complexes, electrons are not paired. If electrons are paired, then the complex is called inner orbital complex. So this is a inner orbital complex. Why it is called inner orbital complex? Since here inside d orbitals participating. The above complex is outer orbital complex. Only outside orbitals are participating. So why some complexes are inner orbital? Why some complexes are outer orbital? That is not actually explained by valence bond theory. Those are the drawbacks of valence bond theory. Valence bond theory only says that in some complexes electrons are paired. In some complexes electrons are not paired. But why some are pairing, why some are not pairing, that is not explained by valence bond theory. Observe this complex. Since electrons are paired, and this complex is a diamagnetic complexes. So valence bond theory exactly explained magnetism also, hybridization also. But which complexes electrons are paired, in which complexes electrons are not paired, that is not explained. So that's why the flaws of valence bond theory. What are the flaws? So it does not explain why some complexes are inner orbital and some are outer orbitals. So that is the drawback. Also, it does not explain. Color. Only magnetic nature explained, does not explain color and stability of the complexes. So these are the drawbacks of valence bond theory. It only explains some are outer, some are inner, but why some are outer and why some are inner does not explain. That means why some electrons are paired, some electrons are not paired. Also, color is also not explained, stability is also not explained. Remaining all these properties are explained by next theory. The next theory is crystal field theory. The next theory is crystal field theory. So crystal field theory clarifies of the drawbacks of valence bond theory. In valence bond theory, why some complexes are paired and unpaired, that is not explained. But this crystal field theory explains that drawback also. What the crystal field theory says that, according to this theory, ligands are classified as strong and weak field ligands. So the order of ligand should be, we can write like this: I minus, Br minus, SCN minus, Cl minus, S2 minus, F minus, OH minus, H2O, NCS, EDTA 4 minus NH3 EN CN minus CO. So this is the order of the strength of the ligands. So mostly these ligands we can treat it as strong ligands, and remaining we can treat it as weak ligands. So crystal field theory says that each ligand has some strength. They can be weak ligand as well as some are strong ligands. So in presence of strong ligand, electrons are paired. So that is the statement. In presence of strong ligand, electrons are paired. So the valence bond theory, the two complexes we have seen NiCl4 and NiCN4. In NiCl4, ligands are no, electrons are not paired. Why? Because Cl is a weak ligand. But in NiCN4, Cn is a strong ligand. That's why electrons are paired. So wherever ligands are strong, we have to pair the electrons. Wherever ligands are weak, we don't pair the electrons. So based on that, we can easily identify hybridization, geometry, everything. But this is not explained by valence bond theory. Only crystal field theory clarifies that ligand, some are strong ligand and some are weak ligand. If ligand is strong, electrons gets paired. If ligand is weak, electrons are not paired. So this is the crystal field theory clarifications about inner orbital and outer orbital complex. So not only these drawbacks are clarified, it also explains strength of the central atom. It also explains strength of central atom. So central atom is a d block element. So whenever d block element is forming complexes, their d orbitals, we know that d orbitals are 5d orbitals. So all these 5d orbitals can be split into different energies when it is forming complexes. In a central atom, when forming complexes, the d orbitals of 5 orbitals is split into different energy levels. So that splitting is called crystal field splitting. So this theory not only explained about ligand, also explained about central atom. So in central atom, we always have 5d orbitals. Observe this. Crystal field splitting. Crystal field splitting in octahedral complexes. When the complex is octahedral, how the splitting will be happen like this is. We know that d orbitals are 5 orbitals. dxy, dyz, dxz, dx square, y square, dz square. And all these 5 orbitals are actually same energy. So these are called degenerate orbitals. But whenever, so these d orbitals are combining with ligands, so their energy is splitting into two different energy levels. So below 3 orbitals will come. That means energy of 3 orbitals are decreasing, and above 2 orbitals will come. That means 2 orbitals energy will be increasing. Suppose this we are taking as average energy. So when compared with this average energy, so 3 orbitals have lower energy and 2 orbitals have higher energy. So this lower energy value will be 2 by 5 delta O. Crystal field energy denoted with delta O. O represents octahedral. And the above orbitals energy will be 3 by 5 delta O. Here minus 2.5 because energy is decreasing, sign will be minus, its sign will be plus. Plus 3.3 by 5 and minus 2 by 5. So that means Whenever here electron is present, whose energy is minus 2 by 5 delta O. Whenever here electron is present in the above orbital, its energy value is plus 3 by 5 delta O. So delta O is the crystal field splitting energy in octahedral complexes. So simply crystal field theory says that in octahedral complexes, the d orbitals of central atom will be split into two different energy levels. One is the lower energy level. These lower energy levels orbitals are denoted with T to Z, whereas higher energy orbitals are denoted with EZ. EZ means 2 orbital, T to Z means 3 orbitals. Now, what is the use of this theory? So this theory, suppose we are taking configuration D1. Sometimes in the exam they will ask, what is the CFSE, crystal field splitting energy value for this configuration? D1 means when we are taking, one is the weak ligand, another we are taking strong ligand. So 3 orbitals are lower energy, 2 orbitals are higher energy. So D1 means it have only one electron. So according to Hafbauer principle, electrons always filled in the lower energy level. So lower energy value is 2 by 5. So 2 by 5 means 1 electron is present, 1 into minus 2 by 5. Its value will be minus 0.4 delta O. Similarly, if it is a strong field ligand, so that is also will be nearly same, exactly same. In the strong also, electrons will be filled in the lower energy level first. So it is also energy value, CFSE value minus 0.4 delta O. Suppose the configuration is D2. 2 orbital and 3 orbitals are T to Z. Both weak field and strong field I am taking. D2 means first electron will be filled here according to Hund's rule. Second electron will be filled here. So total 2 electrons in the lower energy level. So that means 2 into minus 0.4. So that will be minus 0.8 delta O. Here also same. Here electron. This is also minus 0.8 delta O, CFSE value. Now the configuration will be D3. D3 means 2 orbitals EZ, 3 orbitals are T to Z. So 3 means 1, 2, 3. What is the value? 3 into minus 0.4, which is equal to minus 1.2 delta O. Same will be applicable in strong ligand also. T to Z and EZ. 3 electrons, 1, 2, 3. This is also minus 1.2 delta O. So D1, D2, D3. In weak field also same, in strong field also same. But when we are coming to D4 configuration, observe here, 2 orbitals are higher energy, 3 orbitals are lower energy. First electron, second electron, third electron. Now here it is we are taking in weak field ligands. When ligand is weak, electrons does not pair. That means the fourth electron will jump to high energy orbital here. So what is the value? Lower energy, 3 electrons are there, 3 into minus 0.4 plus in the higher energy 1 electron is there, higher energy value 3 by 5. That means plus 0.6, and whose total value, this will be minus 1.2 plus 0.6. It will become minus 0.6 delta O. If you are taking in strong field ligand, EZ and T to Z orbitals, first electron filled here, second electron filled here, third electron filled here. Now it is a strong ligand we are taking. When strong ligand is there, electrons gets paired. So paired means the fourth electron will be paired in this orbital. That means all 4 electrons in the lower energy level. That means 4 into lower energy value minus 0.4, which is equal to minus 1.6. So crystal field CFSE value is different for D4 configuration. In weak field is minus 0.4, in strong field is minus 1.5. So from this, total values will be changed. For D5, D6, D7 values will be changed. So we can calculate like this. Strong field is there, electrons will fade. Weak field means electrons does not fade. So like that up to D10 we can calculate. So practice this. So CFSE value is important. They will give configuration. Also they will give ligand strength, strong ligand or weak ligand. Then we have to calculate CFSE value. So this is crystal field splitting in octahedral complex. Similarly, so this crystal field splitting in tetrahedral also possible. So in tetrahedral complexes, the splitting will be exactly opposite to octahedral, 5d orbitals. When in tetrahedral these d orbitals are splitting, the above energy orbitals are T2z orbital, whereas the below energy orbitals are the below energy orbitals are EZ orbitals. So this is reverse of the octahedral complex splitting. In octahedral, T2z orbitals are lower, EZ orbitals are higher. But in tetrahedral, EZ orbitals are lower, T2z orbitals are higher. So this is a splitting in tetrahedral complexes. So the relation between tetrahedral and octahedral, it is represented with a delta T. So delta T value is 4 by 9 into delta O. So that means the CFSE value of tetrahedral is equal to 4 by 9 of CFSE value of octahedral. So this is splitting in tetrahedral complexes. It is opposite to octahedral. So this is about crystal field theory. So crystal field theory explains central atom strength also explains ligand strength also. Not only ligand strength and central atom, it also explains color. So this theory also explains color. The color of the complex. So the color of the complexes is due to DD transition of unpaired electrons. DD transition of unpaired electrons. So what is a DD transition means? Suppose here electron is present. So these electrons, when absorbing light, it will jump to higher energy level. Again, from higher energy is unstable, it will return to its original state by releasing some energy. If that releasing energy is in visible region, then we can observe the colors. So color is due to when the releasing energy is in visible region. Why energy releasing means when electron is exhibiting DD transition from lower state to higher state. The high states are unstable. They will return to its original state and they will come by releasing energy. If that releasing energy is in visible region, we exhibit colors. So color is simply due to d-d transition. From one d orbital to another d orbital transiting is taking place. That's why that is called d-d transition. So it explained color, all properties explained by crystal field theory. So even there is a one drawback of crystal field theory is there. What is the drawback is actually in coordination compounds, the nature of the bond is coordinate bond. That means it is insoluble in water. But crystal field theory says that ligands are point charges, they always forms ionic bond. But that is a wrong statement. In crystal field theory, only one wrong statement is there. The nature of bond is given as ionic. But actually in complexes, ionic bond not there. It is only coordinate bond. So that is the only drawback. Remaining all properties are exactly explained. So that is about all theories. So next one topic is there. That is the organometallics. What is organometallics means? Organo, we know that organic always represented by carbon and metallic means metal. When in any complex, carbon is bonded with metal, that compounds are called organometallics. Organometallics means there is a metal and carbon linkage will be there. Those compounds are called organometallics. These organometallics are classified as number of types. The first one is called sigma bonded organometallics. So between metal and carbon, sigma bond is there. That is called sigma bonded organometallics. So number of examples are there. RMgX. So we know RMgX, it is a Grignard reagent. Magnesium is a metal. R means carbon. So carbon and metal bond is there. That's why it is a organometallic. Like that, tetraethyl lead. C2 H4 4 times Pb. This is a tetraethyl lead. So this is also sigma bonded organometallic. Similarly, the second one is pi bonded organometallics. In pi bonded organometallics, metal is linkage with pi bond. Those are called pi bonded organometallics. Here example PtCl3 C2H4. PtCl3 C2H4. So structure should be like this. Central atom will be platinum. It has 3 chlorine atoms. And the fourth bond is linked to C2H4. C2H4 means alkene CH2 double bond CH2. So whenever this is directly linkaging with double bond, that means pi bond, such complexes are called pi bonded organometallics. Another example is C5H5 twice Fe. Its name is ferrocene. Another one is C6H5 twice Cr. Its name is dibenzene chromium. So these are the pi bonded organometallics. So the last organometallic is both sigma and pi bonded organometallic. Both sigma and pi bonded organometallic. So in this, the important compounds are metal carbonyls. So metal carbonyls means like examples NiCO4 or Fe CO5, Cr, CO6. Like this, number of examples are there. When carbon monoxide is a ligand, those are called metal carbonyls. In metal carbonyls, both sigma and pi bonded present. How this is present? See this. Here I am taking central atom metal and ligand is carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide actually C triple bond O. Here carbon central atom has lone pair, and this lone pair will donate to the central atom. They will form sigma bond. Sigma bond is formed by ligand by donating its electron. At the same time, when the metal central atom has extra paired electron, it will also donate to the ligand as a back bond. Now this is called pi bond, and this is a sigma bond. So in metal carbonyls, both sigma and pi bond possibility is there. So why pi bond is forming to the ligand? Here, this ligand CO. The CO electrons are 14 electrons, like N2 molecule. N2 also 14 electrons. When we are writing its electronic configuration, sigma 1s2, sigma star 1s2, like that, there is a one empty orbitals are there. Those are pi star orbitals. These pi star orbitals are empty. So the CO molecules have empty pi star orbital. So into these pi star orbitals, they can donate electrons. So this is the empty pi star orbital. So since CO has pi star empty orbitals, they can accept electrons from the central atom also. That's why they will form pi bond. The sigma bond is by ligand, pi bond is by central atom. So this pi bond formation is called synergic bond. So synergic bond means the formation of back bonding by donation of metal to the ligand. This is called synergic bonding. So this is about metal carbonyls. Remaining some uses of carbonyl compounds are there. Study that uses. So I'll send some material to practice that questions. Thank you. Thank you very much.